I want my lunch. Number one, first of all, let's do this. You got it on the wrong one here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm just back.
It's always good to see you, no matter what you're doing.
Oh, here, stay right there. That's perfect. Let's see if I can just do this. Talk to her.
On the computer.
Yeah, how are you?
Oh, they didn't know what to try.
You guys are quick. And I think
I don't have a fence anymore. It's like time. Where's he going? Must be his.
Thing up.
Yeah, he used to hit the wall.
It's your background, I can't see it. So, that wouldn't have nothing to do with it.
No, okay. Nothing is.
You know what? Do you need this for anything besides the meeting?
That's right. His
I don't know. You're probably talking about the stupid thing. You're now using this, but this is going to be your thing. So you want to go to your agenda management? What do you want to? Now we can go to Sire. Log in.
Good luck. Yes.
You got it now? All right.
I took one step.
Refresh.
We need more.
Download.
And
Yes. Oh, we're on minutes plus. We need to go to agenda. Close that one out and go to agenda.
Agenda what?
Agenda, is that the one on the top? Yeah, that one, either one. That one will work. Yeah, do that one. Okay, go to view. Nope. You don't have to get to this one.
From last time too?
Yeah. Okay. Download. Download. Anyway. Now you have to log in, I think. Yeah.
both of those letters got it the next day. So, I mean, bad timing, whatever, I understand you made an effort, but, you know what I mean,
The Sire server is really slow today. I get the 451. Download. Okay, Windows that off. Now on the list there. Okay. Go to 4.5, click on that and press open. That's how they're going to download. Yeah. File. See if it's under file. No, go to meeting. Expand all, is it gonna work? Nope. I don't know why it's not re-download.
Yes. I'm gonna get in there. Secretary. All right, let's get this thing started.
I'm back.
You're not there?
Yes. Yes.
She said her name's on there as the bride. And no one was there. She said it's actually Brian who's going to do it, Brian Craig. So when we send out the emails or whatever, we should send them to Brian Craig.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
Just go into agenda management, and it'd be hard for me to pull up the attachments, but I can.
I'm gonna go print 5 copies.
But it's there. Why did they not put it on the screen?
Yes, we need to. That's good idea. That's good.
It won't download it.
Let's go back to agenda management, so we can at least get the agenda up on the screen.
Okay. Do that.
If it goes up.
I got it free up. Let's call the meeting to order without John. Dave, let's call the meeting to order. I said we're going to have a meeting without John.
All right, let's go.
It's not what I want, but.
Okay. Escape out. Go ahead.
Call the meeting
I'd
to
like to
order.
call the meeting to order.
Thank you. And we'll call the roll. Mr. Haddad,
Here.
Mr. Genowine,
Here.
Mr. Mahoney. Here.
I'm going to disconnect you, brother.
Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance, yes.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Susan, do we have a sign-in sheet? There is not a sign-in sheet for us. Oh, I could just put,
That would be great.
just a couple pieces of it. I don't see it here.
Is anybody interested in signing in to talk about
I did.
Here they
specific?
come. She's got the sign-in sheets here for us.
Do you have anything to change or,
I do not.
Kevin?
No.
Approve the minutes as listed?
Second.
Hang on one second, please, here. All in favor of Mr. Mahoney? On the minutes?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
And Kevin?
Yep.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda? No. Good. All right. Hearing of the public, did anybody sign in? I know it's just been 2 seconds, but,
Myself.
okay.
Penny Levine, 3753 Her Road. I just wanted to submit the latest picture that I could get of some of the blockages already compiling in the 10 Mile Creek. So here's one. Other than that, it was too muddy. My boots were being yanked off, so this is one that I could get from Concrete.
Thanks. Okay. Well, that will segue right into our next couple of items. First, we've got TMACOG to present to us today.
Right, as you recall at our last regular meeting, there was some questions on what is TMACOG and the assessments and dues, and so at that time I told the trustees that we'd be bringing them in, and also with them stormwater, and then the last presentation will be the Soil and Water Conservation District. All of them deal with water. So with that, I'll turn it over to TMACOG, and they'll talk about their general, what is TMACOG?
Thank you, John. Good afternoon. My name is Greg Gedham. I am the marketing manager for TMACOG, the Toledo Metropolitan Area Council of Governments. And I would like to thank you for this opportunity to be here this afternoon to introduce TMACOG to you again, and thank you for your many years of support and participation. Before each of you is a copy of our most recent annual report. It lists our activities, our mission, both in transportation and environmental planning. Also, at the back of the annual report lists all of our 150 members and lists the Lucas County members, townships, villages, cities, counties, port authorities, and so on. TMACOG is a unique organization because we accept and recruit non-governmental members, private sector members such as engineering firms, utilities, nonprofits, private colleges such as Lord's College located here in Sylvania. We think we're a stronger regional organization when those entities are with us, rolling up their sleeves, participating in our mission both in environmental and transportation planning. I wanted to thank you for your participation and your support over the years, and hopefully ask for your continued support and participation. With me this afternoon, I would like to introduce Leslie Coley. Leslie is administrator for Springfield Township, and I've asked her to make a few comments on participation within TMACOG and also access to TMACOG staff and the benefits that she has derived on behalf of her township through TMACOG. And we'll be happy to answer any questions or concerns throughout this afternoon. Again, thank you for this opportunity. Leslie?
As Greg stated, I'm Leslie Coley, the Springfield Township Administrator, and I will try to keep it short, even though Mr. Genuine claims that all attorneys are wordy. In our view, TMACOG is an organization that helps to take all of the resources of all of the communities as well as the private industries, as he mentioned, and it brings us all to the same table to discuss issues that affect all of us and to put us in a position to make us stronger as a group rather than individually all trying to recreate the wheel. So some of the things that I've been involved for Springfield Township with TMACOG have been the Transit Forum a few years ago. And some of you may say, yeah, well, we still haven't done anything with regional transportation. However, I think that that was a very sensitive issue that you need to get through several layers of a conversation before you can actually make a difference. And I think through those conversations and bringing the right people into the room, we've established relationships with one another so that hopefully at some point we can get to a position where we can make a real difference as it relates to transportation in this area and make us a stronger community, whether it be for our people and their transportation or whether it be for intermodal transportation. One of the areas that I think TMACOG does an excellent job in is environmental, and that's both the Environmental Council as well as the Stormwater Coalition. They have other groups that you may be familiar with or may not be, but the 208 area-wide water quality management plan, the Clean Ohio Fund, the Balanced Growth Initiative, and stormwater management are some of the most recent things the last 2 years that they've done. I've been involved in both the Environmental Council, the Balanced Growth Initiative, as well as the Stormwater Coalition. The Balanced Growth Initiative, again, brought together developers as well as all the jurisdictions to look at and plan a regional-wide growth, to look at what areas should be commercial development, what areas should be conserved for agricultural, what areas should be preserved as conservation, as well as what areas should be residential. And again, I think that's something that we can use as a region, as a tool to help us to be balanced and not to be, again, duplicating the wheel in every jurisdiction. As far as our relationship with TMACOG and the accessibility of their staff members, usually every time I call, I get somebody right away, and if not, I get a call back within an hour or two. They've always gone above and beyond to answer our questions and to address any needs that we have. As far as the Stormwater Coalition goes, I know that that's a hot topic, and I guess one thing I would point out is that the Stormwater Coalition and the Stormwater Utility Fee, although they're related, they are also two separate issues. And our experience with the Stormwater Coalition has been that they've been very helpful in helping us to fulfill our requirements for our MS4 permit. As a community that has requirements to educate our public, they provided us with the information to be able to educate them. I noticed out here in your lobby you have the Give Water a Hand pamphlets. Those are all things that were creations from the Stormwater Coalition that they gave to the communities to be able to educate and to fulfill that requirement. In addition, they can do training for our employees, which is another requirement, that they be trained, and that's something that would literally cost us a few $1,000s if we were to go out and try to find someone with that expertise to come in and train all of our roads and maintenance individuals on what those requirements are as well. So from our perspective, they've been very helpful. I think some other areas that they've brought people to the table, which they didn't necessarily have to, but I think that they've done it in an effort to be kind of that central unit that helps bring people to the table, and that is the Regional Branding Initiative. If you haven't had an experience to hear about that, I would strongly encourage you to go to the website or to attend one of those seminars. They also brought people to the table to talk about, a perspective of what we do for water. And that's a conversation that we all know probably would not happen unless we had somebody bringing those parties to the table. And then lastly, I remember last year when I went to the board retreat, we had an incredible day discussing economic growth in our community, and it was just so encouraging to see not just the townships and the villages, but the cities, including people from the city of Toledo, sitting at the same table discussing our economic growth as a region. So again, I think although they tend to focus on transportation and environmental, they're willing and able to bring us together for many other issues. So, and specifically for Springfield Township, I know they've been a real impetus in getting us funding for the McCord Road underpass project. And, obviously that's in Springfield Township, but I can only imagine that the help that they gave us with that is something they would do for Sylvania Township if there was a project like that in your township. Do you guys have any questions of me?
Can I ask Greg a question? Sir. Greg, can I ask you a couple questions? Sure. How many planners do you have on your team there? Are they planners, like a Pogemeyer planner, where they actually, I know that it's been a few years since I've been involved with your group, but you've got planners and things of that nature. In 2007, we wrote a land use plan, and I was wondering if we were able to have some of your associates help us with our new land use plan that's coming up, and that might be a way we could save some money as opposed to hiring out a consultant that we paid a lot of money back in 2007. Would you guys be of interest in helping us with that program?
Our current staff is made up of about 23 individuals. There's about 7 or 8 individuals in our transportation department and 3 individuals in our environmental department. And we do have planners on staff. And when members ask for assistance, that's exactly what we do in terms of planning. So when a request comes, we will take that into consideration and help those members where our expertise is involved, and so we'd be happy to take a look at that and render any assistance that we can. That's the benefits of membership. Take advantage of those kind of expertise within our staff. Some of the kinds of things we can assist with, and some kinds of things we can't, but at least make the ask.
I don't think in 2007 we had anybody from Team Agog that helped us to Tim, were you here back in 2007? I don't think we had anybody back in 2007 for that, so that's good to know. Thank you.
Kind of piggyback on that, I don't know, if your zoning resolution at this point has the stormwater, the language in it for stormwater requirements, but I know that's something that TMCOG has been able to give us actual sample language so that we didn't have to figure that all out by ourselves either.
Now, this is another stupid question if I could, Greg. If let's say we woke up tomorrow and said, you know, we don't want to give you guys the money for the stormwater, which is,
Next.
oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
it's okay.
I thought Leslie was.
I'm gonna allow my,
It blends into, they all three blend in together.
The coalition, yeah, it's kind of sorry, I'm not very good at it, but it kind of gets all
Okay.
tied together.
That's okay.
So if we woke up tomorrow and said, we want to do this, I mean, you guys are helping us out here. Tell us what you're doing to help us if we were to not do this.
I'm gonna,
Agree to paying the, whatever we're going to pay, $3,700. Tell us the downside of it.
with me this afternoon is Kurt Erickson, our Vice President of Environmental Planning. I'm gonna allow him to address your concerns on stormwater, if I could.
Sorry if I got
That's okay.
myself there.
Thank you. My name is Kurt Erickson. I'm Vice President of Environmental Planning, and my department in TMCOG does include the Stormwater Coalition, and I appreciate the time on your agenda this afternoon to go over the Stormwater Coalition and answer your questions. And a tip of the hat to Leslie, who has already given about half of my presentation. That's quite all right, so the rest will be reinforcement. The Stormwater Coalition, in a nutshell, its purpose is to help its members understand and meet the requirements of the EPA stormwater permits. The purpose of that permit is, since it's EPA, it is an environmental one, and the clearest example that I can give as to how that comes home is when we look at Lake Erie and we see the toxic algae blooms, stormwater runoff is one of the sources that is behind that. It's not the only one, but every source needs to be dealt with, and stormwater is certainly a significant one. EPA has found non-point source pollution to be an increasingly large part of the picture in the Great Lakes, and it's something that does need to be dealt with, and that is really what led to the stormwater permits. They apply to all urbanized jurisdictions nationwide, and in our area that's approximately 30 political jurisdictions, some of them across the state line. And there are very specific requirements for these stormwater permits, but the legally responsible agencies are the local governments, the villages, the cities, the counties, the townships. So literally, the Sylvania Township trustees are responsible for a stormwater permit, an MS4 permit as the jargon goes. Now, when those permits went into effect in 2003, 7 of the townships of Lucas County got together with 2 villages in the county and decided to share resources to meet those requirements, which are pretty extensive and are not inexpensive to fulfill, as Leslie alluded to. And what they did was those 7 townships, the 2 villages, and the county decided to file their permits jointly as co-permittees and share expenses and share responsibilities. And because of that, to a large extent, I think that the stormwater permitting process is relatively invisible to most of the townships. Leslie noted that there are some things that their township does, and there are still responsibilities that each township has to fulfill, but a lot of the things are done on the regional basis, some of them by TMCOG, and many of them by county agencies. And Stormwater Coalition helps bring all of that about. Your Stormwater Coalition dues specifically helps support that process and helps all of the members of the coalition meet the permit requirements. And the stormwater dues go to support staff, which is not supported by any TMCOG dues. It is a it is a self-sustaining committee that does have its own due structure because it provides very specific services. I'd like to refer you to the booklet. It's one of the handouts. This is a condensation of a 250-page manual that we developed. And when I say we, I mean that TMCOG staff was involved kind of as secretariat and organizer, but the content came from the local jurisdictions. And it's a design standards manual that is used by engineers, by developers in the area, and really sets standards on how to build development projects in ways that meet EPA requirements. And this booklet is a more digestible version of that technical design manual. One thing that Leslie alluded to is that manual does include model legislation language to be adopted by local jurisdictions. And if you get on the web, you can find quite a few model ordinances across the country. We're not the only ones that developed it, but what's unique about ours is that our language, it was specifically fine-tuned by local jurisdictions. It is not the version that Ohio EPA might necessarily prefer that you adopted, but it is sufficient to meet their requirements, and it was customized in ways to make the regulations a little bit more acceptable on the local level. And so we put those model ordinances together with a view of being useful to local jurisdictions. And two of those are required by Ohio EPA, and I'll get to the requirements of that in a minute. So we provided model language for your use. I would like to refer you to pages 11 and 12 of that book. In the world of stormwater, we talk about 6 minimum control measures. These are 6 things that EPA requires that you do as part of your permit. And I want to briefly step through each of these and give you a couple of examples of where they get done, thanks to regional cooperation and all the collaboration that we've got among local jurisdictions. Public outreach and education, we kind of lumped those two together a lot of times. EPA requires you to educate the public, the residents of your jurisdiction, about stormwater pollution issues and what everybody needs to do to help protect water quality. They also require public participation and outreach, and Stormwater Coalition plays a direct role in providing both of those services. One example is the Student Watershed Watch. Northview has been a strong participant in that program for many years. It's a stream sampling program that's conducted annually for the high schools and middle schools of the area, where the kids get to learn about the environment and testing local waterways. The Stormwater Coalition itself is part of the public outreach. It's a public forum. Meetings are open to the public. We help publicize another event called Clean Your Streams that TMCOG itself does not host, but we do help publicize it. It's an annual litter pickup day. And all of these things you can take credit for in your stormwater permit and your report to Ohio EPA. I'd like to call your attention to the second handout. It's the one with the blue Stormwater Coalition logo at the top. We have produced a series of these little newsletters on stormwater issues, and we'd encourage you to republish this text in your newsletter on a website. It's something that you can do to help get the word out to your residents and fulfill the permit requirements on public outreach and education. This one is in particular on using fertilizer on your lawn and what to do to minimize the water quality impacts of using fertilizer. And again, as Leslie noted, I was gratified to see the Give Water a Hand brochures out in your display case. That was a good set of brochures that our group put together, and again, a major contribution toward fulfilling the outreach and education requirements. Measure number 3 is illicit discharges, and usually that means septic systems. A storm drain, remember, as far as EPA is concerned, is to drain clean water off of a site, not to drain polluted water. Polluted water needs to be treated. And septic tank discharges are one of the most common violations of that, but also it gets into issues like dumping in ditches. Those are all contributions of water pollution. Among the requirements under that is mapping of the outfalls. That is something that the Lucas County engineer has done. The Toledo Lucas County Health Department is, of course, the agency that you go to about septic systems. And again, in the standards manual, each local jurisdiction is required to adopt a resolution or an ordinance enforcing those rules, and that is one of the sets of model languages that we provided. Construction sites and post-construction both have to do with construction, and mostly have to do with controlling runoff of sediment. That mud that runs off of a construction site, either during construction or after the site is built, carries a lot of pollutants with it. The sediment itself is considered a pollutant, but it also has some invisible pollutants with it, namely nutrients, phosphorus, and nitrogen. And those are really what cause problems when they get to streams and to Lake Erie. And those practices are all about keeping the sediment on the land, and the brochure shows a number of examples such as silt fences and outlet controls and grass swales all help control that pollution and keep it from being a problem. Then finally, the last one is pollution prevention and good housekeeping. That is something that does require action very specifically by each local jurisdiction. Everybody who's got a salt pile or has any number of chemicals that they work with, from the way of cleaners to pesticides, you name it, making sure that those materials are stored in a safe manner and stored in a way such that if there is a spill, that they can be contained rather than running off into a storm drain and into the nearest creek. One of the requirements there is a training program for the jurisdiction staff, and TMACOG, thanks to an excellent employee of ours, has put together a training program that we're taking around to jurisdictions. We tentatively have one scheduled for this summer, I believe, to which Sylvania Township employees will be invited. And again, all of this counts toward the requirements of the permit, which gets down to, finally, the reporting of all of this to EPA. EPA does require each jurisdiction to have a plan as to all the details of how they're going to fulfill each of these 6 minimum controls, and then afterwards they sit down with you and go through that list, and they want to see documentation of everything that you've done to fulfill all of these requirements, and they're going through that audit process with each and every permit. I don't know if they've gotten to you yet. I think they have gotten to Lucas County, but that part of it may seem relatively invisible to you, except that your staff does provide some of the information that goes into it. But mostly that's Brian Miller at the engineer's office that fulfills that requirement on your behalf and keeps you in good graces with EPA. I need to remind you of the letter of the law that does allow EPA to levy fines for non-compliance. I haven't seen that happen, and we hope that it doesn't happen. Our job as the Stormwater Coalition is to make sure that the chips stay up and that none of our members are faced with that kind of a situation. Then the last handout I wanted to call to your attention, I'm sure is probably the one of greatest interest, is the one with all the numbers on it, the Temacog Stormwater Coalition dues. This lays out our dues structure. It's fundamentally based on the number of parcels, and the reason why we went with that system is basically that the more parcels there are, the more highly developed a jurisdiction is likely to be, and the more impervious surface and the more stormwater. So we believe that there is a cause and effect between number of parcels and stormwater. The stormwater dues are based on the unincorporated areas of Lucas County, and the coalition dues are split between the county and each township. So basically, the Lucas County is paying 29 cents per parcel for areas in Sylvania Township, and you're paying the other 29 cents. That's the way that it works. We have 27 members of the Stormwater Coalition. One of those is ODOT, one of them is a private nonprofit, and one is a jurisdiction that doesn't have to but wants to be a member anyhow, just because they're interested in protecting water quality. And as you see at the bottom of the page, our total revenue is $67,000 per year. That pays for about 3/4 of our staffing costs in supporting the program. Those funds also help us leverage dues, and we are certainly going after dues to help expand our stormwater program and increase the resources that are available to the Stormwater Coalition members. Finally, in conclusion, Stormwater Coalition has been in existence since 2003 when the first permits came out. Sylvania Township has been a member all that time, and we greatly appreciate your participation and the value that you've brought to your colleagues around the table. And we do ask that you continue as a member, and we'll do everything we can to make it worth your while. The other question that we'll be discussing this afternoon is the stormwater utility, which is in a large part a different issue. There's definitely a relationship, but the connection is this. The discussion has been that if the utility is adopted, that Lucas County intends to pay Stormwater Coalition dues on its behalf and on behalf of the townships out of utility fees. If that happens, the townships will no longer be getting invoices annually from Temacog for Stormwater Coalition. We're not looking for extra funding here. We're just looking to change where the funding comes from. But meanwhile, in 2011, the utility does not exist, and so that's why we sent you an invoice for this year. Thank you, and any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
I do want to add one more thing I forget to say in regards to Temacog in general. Another service that they give is they do lobby on behalf of us on different interests. So as a region, when there's things that are important that are lobbied in DC or anywhere else, or maybe the state of Ohio, they are there to do that for us as well. And I think although their significance may be ambiguous and hard to put a dollar amount on, I do believe that without an agency like Temacog, it would be detrimental to our region in general. And I agree with Kurt, because from the township's perspective, we all know the issue of stormwater utility may be a controversial one, and I can tell you that Springfield Township initially paid the first half of their Stormwater Coalition dues, not knowing what was going to happen with the stormwater utility fee, but understanding now that even if that occurs, it won't be until 2012. So knowing that, have decided to go ahead and pay the second half of their dues.
Anybody have questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Huffman, do you utilize Temacog for anything? I mean, I know we were fortunate to have Carol here with us as a great resource and liaison for Temacog for many years, and now she's gone and it becomes a hot topic, so we're glad to have you back though, Carol. Greg, do you utilize them for anything?
Yes, I do, yes. I too would like to say that every time I've called, there's been a response. There's a voice at the end of the phone in conjunction with Brian Miller is my main primary point of contact, but Kurt and I have discussed things as well. I have a positive mindset on the Team of organization.
Okay.
And I'm a member on that board.
I know you were.
So I've learned a lot of this already, and they will work on our behalf as long as we utilize them. If we don't utilize them, then it's a waste of money.
That's right. Okay.
Which now kind of moves us into the next area, which has been discussed a little bit, is the Stormwater Coalition and utility. Sorry. And
Good afternoon, trustees. Thank you for allowing us to present on an issue that I hear is of interest to the trustees and has been for the past few years. I think Kurt did a pretty good job of outlining the need for management of water quality in our community. And let me start by saying this. Even though there is a federal mandate on water quality, a state mandate on water quality that we're gonna and have to comply with, just as a matter of public policy, I think we as a community ought to want to have good, clean, managed water, whether the federal government or the state government tell us to or not. Water is a great resource in Northwest Ohio. You can see the economic impact of the algae boom in the lake just last year on tourists, fishermen, psyche. We have good water here. And the public, by and large, I think understands that and values the water. So even though we do have, I'm not going to hide behind the curtain of, oh, the federal government and the state's going to tell us that we have to do this. They're going to tell us what we do and to what degree and to what level and to what detail. But I'll stand here for you today and say I'm a proponent as public policy in Lucas County in the area to have good, clean, safe, reliable water for us. I've chaired the Stormwater Coalition since its inception. I think it's a great start for us to help manage some of these permits, but the world has changed. Years ago, when the Ohio EPA and the federal EPA started drilling down on water quality issues in communities, it was based on populations, and they name communities specifically that have to do levels of activities. And Toledo obviously was named early because its population as a permit holder. They got a special permit. They had the highest levels of compliance to do that. But that permitting process and the level of that permitting process continues to move down into communities with less density and less population. And so, Springfield, Sylvania, Jerusalem, Monclova, Spencer, Washington, Waterville, Village of Waterville, and Village of Holland are now named communities to the level of permit that they have not been held to before. So we have to make a decision how we're going to manage those activities. The mandates are here. The mandates are pretty clear but complicated and are going to have to be adhered to. Then it becomes a question of how do you pay for these activities? Who pays and what do they cost? I will stand here, as much as it may sound like just being a member of the Stormwater Coalition ought to satisfy your obligations to the EPA, that's not going to work anymore. They've come to your township in a way that they've come to the cities 5 and 6 years ago on level of detail. And unfortunately, 29 cents a household isn't going to give you the level of service reporting and the protection, not only for your citizens, but also to the federal government that we need. In my former career as a city councilman in Toledo, I was there for the creation of Toledo Stormwater Utility. It drew a lot of conversation back in its day in the late 90s. Ended up was a unanimous vote of council and recommendation by the mayor of the city of Toledo, and I'll tell you what, to this day, had we not done that and dedicated some funds to stormwater management in Toledo, even the devastation of the flooding that we saw a few years ago in Crawford Street in Toledo, which was bad, that kind of damage would have been tripled the area had we not gotten out a little bit ahead of it. Toledo was faced, as we are, they had a $150 million problem and about a $1 million a year budget toward it before they created a utility. Now they're closing that gap. The other experience that drives me to have us consider this is also going back to my experience with the city of Toledo. That got named in a lawsuit by a federal EPA many years ago for discharges from their wastewater plants. We fought that out for 10 years. I was there when we signed the consent decree to finally not fight, and we started paying people to fix the problem, not paying lawyers to argue about it. But we went for 10 years in a legal battle with EPA that you'll never win and will never move your community forward. And as a result, Toledo had to agree to a $450 million project to satisfy the consent decree that they're still struggling with and paying for. So this is clearly a question of do you want to do what's good public policy? Do you want to stay ahead of the curve? Do you want to try to be fair and reasonable in how fees are assessed and take a long-term view? That's the question in front of us. Now, I have left you, and I think, obviously, John, if you or the staff need to duplicate more, feel free. We have no proprietary rights to these. We're just going to use your copy machine to do it. There is a 66-slide PowerPoint that we won't go through today because some of us have been through it. As you know, we had 2 public meetings about the creation of a utility a month or so ago. That generated some questions. We have been meeting with representatives of the township trustees, specifically Trustee Glenn from Springfield Township asked to put together a group. The engineer's office has met with them, provided them information. We'll meet with them again on the 14th of April. I don't know what, that's Mud Hen's opening day. I'm not going, but they are. So we continue to listen, and we will probably be asked to make some decision in the next 60 days. I would advise you that I will suggest, with the support of my fellow commissioners, hopefully, one more public hearing, probably held in the Lucas County Commissioners' Chambers for some updates on the work that the township trustees have asked us to do with them. What you have in the 66-point PowerPoint is the work of our consultants, and in conjunction with the sanitary engineer and the Lucas County engineer. So it is a recommendation from a consultant. It may not be what the final product turns out to be, because you take your consultant's wisdom, we parse it out to our public partners and private partners and come back with a recommendation that might work. And I would dare to say not anybody has every time taken the consultant's representation and say that's it, what's on this paper. So we are listening. You're talking, we're listening, and we're going to have to come to a decision. That's the update on the stormwater utility. Again, should the commissioners vote by majority, we would have to do it in a time frame before the end of August. The way of billing, since we don't have a billing system, the only billing system we have is your tax duplicate bill. So it would be assigned to the 2012 tax duplicate. In order for that to happen by law, we'd have to get it to the auditor the end of August. I think probably the timeline's a little shorter than that on the decision-making process. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Again, I didn't see on the agenda a full-blown presentation of this, so I didn't bring it, and then you've all had a chance to be part of it as had the public, and will again. But that's kind of where we're at on this given day, and we'll answer any questions, and certainly appreciate the voters of Sylvania Township bringing Mrs. Contrada to our board, because she's been a great help on this and many other things, and represents your viewpoints on a daily basis. So you're getting a bang for your buck in a couple different ways. As you know, the commissioners do represent every voter in Lucas County, and that's the view that we have to bring to this. Thank you. Anything you'd like to add? Okay.
No, I think you covered it very thoroughly.
Okay.
No, my biggest concern all along, and I've been to the meetings, is the amount of money we're going to be paying towards it, which we're going to be paying the majority, and the level of service we're going to get out of it. That's my only concern. Because it's going to be $60 a household a year to start.
As you see in the handout, there are some capital projects on there, including some of the issues on 10 Mile Creek and ditches that we can assist what you already do on and expand on.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to have to, the level of service is absolutely a valid question. We need to show people what we're doing, but as Leslie has said and others, that sometimes the cost and the administration of these programs is pretty invisible to the public. It really is. It's technical, it's training, it's education, it's dialogue. That component is every bit as valuable and necessary as it is dragging logs out of a ditch and opening a stream. So a lot of it is not as visible, but it is a level of service. Just a little harder for people to go out to touch, see, and smell, but nonetheless required.
We were fortunate to have our meeting with Keith Early last week, and he kind of went over some of the ways he was going to implement it from the engineer's point. And I think we're doing a lot of the things, and it's certainly a subject that needs to be dealt with from a regional level, because if one person or entity does it and someone upstream or downstream doesn't, you know, what's going to be the overall impact. So we appreciate you taking this one on, and we will be happy to give you our input and feedback as you guys progress towards your decision. And thanks for coming out here this evening.
I think the last 48 hours have showed us that water really knows no political jurisdiction boundaries, and the water, when it crosses the corner of Alexis of Flanders out of the township or the city and into the city of Toledo, it doesn't know or care.
No.
But we have to care about it, and it's unfortunately there's some cost associated with doing this. Nobody wants to do this, but we're going to do it in a reasonable, fair, responsible way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last group that's going to speak today is the Soil and Water Conservation, and they're requesting funding from the township, and she's going to present her case at this time.
Thank you for allowing me time on the agenda this afternoon. I have some handouts for you.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Well, I can start with a follow-up for the Stormwater Coalition. We're involved with that group, and we help them as well. We're at the table with them, as well as we're doing stormwater education programs. And actually this year we got a grant from the ODNR through the Office of Coastal Management to employ an education specialist to assist with the stormwater non-point source pollution controls prevention. Our EnviroScape goes to the classrooms in Sylvania Township. We've done several programs with Arbor Hills Junior High, Southview and Northview High School, and Stranahan and Whiteford Elementary. We've touched over 850 students just in this last year, but we do that every year as part of the program. We do also other community workshops with the Olander Park District and the 577 Foundation as well. We've done a pollinator workshop, and we're actually doing an urban farm series now with our education specialist, working with them, and that's going quite well. We've had the maximum sign up plus waiting list, so we're going to go ahead and do it again next year. And that all counts towards the stormwater permit that the county turns in for you as well. And those numbers went to Brian Miller just last week to go with this year's report. So, that's it. And we did on the education grant, we did use your support to get that grant, because we couldn't do it by ourselves. We need your support to make that happen as well. So, and that's 1 year to emphasize the EnviroScape and water quality controls, and like water quality presentations, like we have a dry stream. Our education brochure is what in the handouts that I gave you. It's this one. Those are all the programs that we offer, and they all go towards the stormwater permit as well too. We also do worm composting with kids, and they're very excited to get their first pet as a worm. So it's very cool to see that happen, and it's fun to see the thank you notes come back into the office after Jamie's been to a program. It's pretty cool to see. And on the agricultural side of our operation, because we have a fairly diverse land use in Lucas County. We have DJ Mears is working at the Blue Creek Conservation Area to demonstrate no-till farming. We've got windbreaks out there, wetlands, and different conservation practices that we're working to get the farmers out there to do innovative practices on their farm fields to keep the soil where it needs to be, where they want it, as well as the water clean. Right now, we're working with cover crops. And we're working to put a cover crop workshop together with the other soil and water districts in September, so we'll have more to come on that. And we also help with the farm bill programs. The federal government puts out a farm bill every 5 years, and we're helping with the conservation side of that, which is, the farm will set aside like the portion around the ditches for filter strips and for where the yield isn't usually very good anyways for the farmers. So we're working with the federal agencies to keep the soil on the ground as well that way. And we also have an International Children's Garden at Blue Creek Conservation Area that we plant every year with the help of Aspiring Hands. They're a volunteer group that's working with us from Bittersweet Farms area. And last year, the produce that was donated to the food banks in the area, we kind of split it up between the areas, White House and Sylvania and Toledo and Oregon even. And it was over 2,000 pounds of produce that were donated to the food banks locally. So, and then in our urban arena, Jeff Grabarkowitz is working with Stormwater Coalition and doing plan reviews for the Planning Commission. And we're also working with the Sustainability Commission to kind of do green things, like low-impact development issues like the pervious concrete. And we're working with TMCOG to put on the stormwater practices and programs. Actually, we actually got another grant to do another stormwater program this fall in September through the Environmental Education Council of Ohio. So more to come on that as well. You'll get invitations to that. And we're also working with ECO in the Environmental Forum, which is the color trifold on your desk there. And that's coming up next week. We're excited about the 3 tracks and the field trips that will emphasize this area, because the program is at Maumee Bay State Park, and the field trips go to the different areas in Lucas County as well. And that's in conjunction with the Environmental Education Council of Ohio. Let's see. That's a summary of what we do. You have our annual report there that's just hot off the presses. We just finished that this week. And we did it a little differently than last year, but that'll give you more details on the numbers and the programs that we do and everything that you see. We have
Sorry, John, you mind if I ask?
4.
You have 4 employees? Okay.
Yeah. And then Cheryl Rice is a federal employee. She works out of our office, but she's USDA NRCS, which is Natural Resource Conservation Service employee, and she helps us out with the urban issues as well, which is a new thing for USDA. She's the urban resource conservationist, and she's the state employee, actually, so she's here in Lucas County. She's the only one in the state. So we're lucky enough to have her, to have her help with the issues on the rain gardens and different things like that, because that would be another thing that we're involved in, the Rain Garden Initiative.
Seeing that the county stopped paying for our yard waste, can you help us set up a compost facility?
Well, actually, we're working on a compost facility, but it's an animal manure facility, and we just opened it. And it's at Blue Creek Conservation Area, and it's kind of small, and it's really just designed to cater to horse owners, which has been the problem, in the past 5 years or so. The more agricultural complaints we've gotten have been, the horse owner who really doesn't have room for 2 horses on the, half an acre parcel that they have. And there are issues with, putting things on ditch banks, and it's bad. So we were hoping to eliminate that problem with the manure compost facility that we just started. And the brochure is in there, in your packets as well. It's open now on Wednesdays from 9 to noon, and Saturday, the second Saturday of the month, from noon to 3. So, and I get to do it this weekend, so.
Wear your boots.
Yeah, bring your boots, right?
Anybody have any other questions?
No, I'm involved. I went to the meeting last year and.
I had a comment.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, I remember seeing you, yeah.
I had a quick comment. I don't know whether it was maybe Jim Shaw or Keith Early, and Frank, in my, I guess my other day job as a lawyer, I was working on trying to get some information on some mapping and things of that sort to help me on some exhibits in a case. And either Jim or Keith referred me out to your offices, and it was a fascinating time. I think I spent about an hour and a half working on my case and another hour and a half just sitting there talking to some of the people in there. You don't even know where it is. I mean,
it's a pretty small location.
Here's their building. It's right on the front, and it's in Maumee. But it was a fascinating time I spent there with information. And they have all these programs, but they have a whole bunch of maps and stuff like that of going back in time, and it was very valuable. And it was a very neat experience. I really enjoyed it. So. And I think you may have, I don't know if it was you that helped me.
Probably, I've been there 10 years now.
Okay,
so.
well, yeah.
There's
a lot of information and very, very informative to be out there.
Actually, Dave, if I don't mind, one of my suggestions to you might be is, I spent a lot of time back in the environmental world, and you guys never charge for those aerial photographs. So when they're doing phase 1 and phase 2s.
Well, we charge a quarter for the copies.
Well, as an idea for revenue.
Yeah.
The mannequin Smiths and Toll Tests and Bowser Mortars, those guys are in there all the time.
Right, they are.
Getting aerials. So if you guys were able to charge a little extra money.
Kind of get them on as members or something.
The consumer's paying it anyways. It's a pass-through for those guys. But I think that may be a revenue generator. You guys ought to look at that.
We should.
Get some revenues going. So
We should. I'm sure they'd be certainly open to that.
So you no longer work for Toll Test, I take it?
You're retired. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up. That, at this point, ends our presentations, and we'll,
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
now we move on to the interesting stuff. Next on the agenda is the zoning department, and unless you have questions for Tim, his monthly report isn't due to the next meeting. We have nothing to report at our end unless you have questions. Hearing none, next is Greg with the Public Works and his monthly report.
Good afternoon. Monthly report for March 2011 has been submitted for your review. We were able to get out and perform some asphalt patching during the month. Actually, letter A and B are a combined project. We also noticed culvert replacement in need on Wilford Road. I want to emphasize that this section of Wilford Road is under construction with the sanitary project. So I sought a bid for the contractor on site. I was a bit shocked at his bid, so we performed the work ourselves. And there's no doubt in my mind we saved $5,000 or $6,000. So we're always looking, into those areas where we can perform the work. We were able to secure the old siren at Fire Station 3 and some other accessories with Chief Kowalski. Letter F, I'd like to point out, that was the map day at the county engineer's office, and I was able to update the county engineer's map for the new fire stations 2 and 3. So when those are printed next year, we should have the accurate locations.
You lost a member. Carry on business, not all the trustees here.
And there's a spreadsheet there of the snowfall that we experienced.
hopefully that's behind us.
So, other information posted, other projects are proceeding, specifically the City of Sylvania water line project on Centennial Road. There's a right-of-way acquisition occurring right now for the McCord Road project. The construction's not scheduled till 2012. That was part of our meeting, the county engineers. So, other than that, the name of the game right now is brush pickup. That's all I have for the trustees.
Thank you very much.
And as you said, for the brush pickup, as you're aware of, and the public is, that we moved that up because of the storms and that, and hopefully that will go smoothly with the weather holding up, and we'll get that brush picked up. Next item on the agenda is the fire department, and the chief has a resolution.
Good evening. Before I get into the resolution, I'd just like to sort of bring you up to date on the number 2's fire station, the brand new fire station on McCord Road. Today, this morning, they started to pour the approach, finished it, and hopefully within a week we'll be able to drive on it. So that's we're hoping that could get done this week, and with the weather breaking, that we're able to do it. We did go through a punch list. Mr. Stokes is off on vacation this week, but he does have a punch list that we went through. Midwest Construction has been given the punch list, and they're in the process of taking care of the issues that we brought up. We also had an issue with some of the locks on the outside station that were supposed to be the same type of locks at number 4's. We have gone ahead and taken care of that at number 4's, and we have a bid or a proposal to take care of the ones at number 3's to make them a secure lock system for the outside doors only. And this is a lock system that you will not be able to duplicate the key itself. I think probably there's people in here that still have a key for number 1's fire station tucked somewhere on their keychain. So in order to have that security through the years, we decided to go to a secure key system, and that has been taken care of, and we'll be moving out with number 3's fire station also. Landscaping will start next week, so we're moving along on that, and we look to possibly move in the second week or third week of April, and then do a open house after the crews are there for about a week, and they get used to the station, then we'll do an open house. I have some really good news. It pertains to money. We received a $38,000 AFG grant. AFG stands for Assistance to Firefighters Grant. Our grant writer, Lieutenant Steve Steinmetz, has done an excellent job over the years in looking out there for what's available, and he went ahead and put in for a grant for dry extractor washers for our fire gear and dryers. And we did receive the notification last week from Marcy Kapner's office. In fact, I made a comment to her aide that every time he calls me, I like to hear from him because I know I'm getting money, so it's a good thing to talk to him. We did get the $38,000. Our match to that, the 10%, was $3,800, so the grant total will be $34,200 with our kick-in of $3,800. We have already gone ahead and getting bids for number 2's fire station, which I think you recall we decided not to put a washer extractor in there, so now we'll be able to provide a washer extractor for every firehouse in a dryer. So the guys will be able to clean their gear, get it back in service within a matter of 12 hours from the time they start that process. So we were able to do that. Friday night afternoon from 5 to 7, we gave free smoke detectors and CO detectors away at number 4's fire station. It was on channel 36. They did a couple live feeds from there. I was sort of surprised because they told me to expect about 100 people. I said, I don't know. Well, we had about 84 people that came out and got a free smoke detector and a CO detector. We were co-sponsored by the American Red Cross and by SMB Construction. So that's just an update on what we're doing so far. I have a resolution to promote a lieutenant. As you know, we went through the testing. You want me just to hand these out and briefly go over those? Sure. Okay. Sure.
Thank you.
What you have before you is the process in which we went through the testing. I wanted to make sure that everything is transparent and we're up on board with everything. So the first page is the actual process that we went through with the timetables and what we tried to reach as far as the timetables go. As you can see, we were ahead of schedule. I'm glad that we're ahead of schedule and we'll be able to make the promotion official next week at the next Township Trustees meeting. The second page is the eligibility list, how it breaks down. The first column on the left are the test scores with the individuals, and then the next column of test scores you'll see are the assessment center and the rankings of each candidate in the assessment center. We had a total of 16 candidates that took the test. 8 of them passed to move on to stage 2, which is the oral assessment center. We chose, per the contract, we have to look at 5 candidates for the promotion. I chose to do the chief interview with all 8 candidates, feeling that if we did have multiple promotions, I would have gotten the oral, the chief's interview down right off the bat. We wouldn't have to revisit it at a later date. On the bottom, the columns on the bottom are the top 5 candidates and their ranking. And I plan on making my promotion out of the top 5 candidates. The last page, you will see the raw test scores from the 16 candidates that took the written test, and then the cutoff point of 70%, which was the passing grade. I think as we went through the process, my intent is to sit down with every candidate, sit down with them, show them their written scores, go over the written test with them, also share with them the oral assessment that the Ohio Fire Chiefs Board did, share their comments that the Ohio Fire Chiefs had for these different candidates, and then also myself to sit down with them and go over the oral interview that they went through with Deputy Chief Lee, myself, and Lieutenant Ram. That way the candidates, if they did not score well, will find out where they need to work on, the subject matter they need to work on. With that, I ask you to vote on Resolution 11-055, that the trustees of the Savannah Township Fire Chief has requested authorization to promote 1 firefighter paramedic to the rank of lieutenant.
Now look at this here. You got 2 B's, 1 C, and 1 A. Look at your list.
You have any questions?
I don't think so. I'd like to offer Resolution 11-055, promoting a firefighter paramedic to the rank of lieutenant.
Second.
Calling the roll, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Well done on this outlining of the promotion.
Thanks.
Yes, he did an excellent job on that. And,
It was a group effort.
next item on the agenda is the police department. Unless you have any questions for Chief Omey, his report will be due at the next meeting, in case you have any questions at this point. That comes to the administrator.
All right.
This item is a request to review a liquor permit for 6437 Central Avenue. It's the doing business as Stop and Shop. The police chief has looked at it, and what we do is we look at to see if there's any problems out there that would cause us concern for the liquor permit. You do not, the only action you need to take is if you want to request a hearing for this permit. By not taking any action at this point, we approve the permit. So at this time, unless you have any questions about approving the permit, we can move on to the next item.
I don't have any.
And like I said, the chief has reviewed this.
Great.
Under the fiscal officer, Jim Beck is at a conference today, and so I said I'd be handling his. My first resolution, 11-056, approval of a then and now certificate. We have a employee per the union contract in the police department who has requested tuition reimbursement. We have verified that everything is proper, and so we're asking for $3,347.19 and a then and now certificate to be issued to Officer Patrick Charest.
I'd like to offer Resolution 11-056, payment of $3347.19 to Officer Patrick Charest.
Second.
I have some discussion. I want to know why this is a then and now certificate and why it wasn't presented as a regular certificate.
I am not able to answer at this time since Jim is not here. I would imagine he put in for reimbursement and we reimbursed him for that amount, and now we're asking for the purchase order to cover that reimbursement, but the reimbursement was done per the union contract.
I don't know, I'm not thrilled about this.
Sure.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Come on up.
Thanks, Nancy.
We cannot put in the request for a purchase order until he's completed the coursework because we don't know what his grade will be, nor if he'll complete it.
So then it's a then and now certificate instead of just a regular PO?
I can't submit a
You
regular
pay at the
PO.
beginning of the class, and then if he
Hang on,
passes.
Let her finish. Let me ask you, go ahead, what? So why wasn't submitted as a regular purchase order at the end of it then?
A regular purchase order has to be submitted prior.
I got it. Okay, thank you.
Call the roll. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Dunaway?
Yes.
My next resolution is Resolution 11-057. It's an increase in appropriations. If you look on the second page, those are the actual increases, and this is from the unappropriated balance in the various funds. The largest one on there is the $13,000 for Queenwood. As you recall, at the beginning of the year, we did since the county will no longer pick up the brush and that, we did a contract through Greg's department for Queenwood to cover it for this year in the amount of $13,000. The other two is for the other large ones is the cemetery, to fix the sign in front of the cemetery, and this is appropriating money for the cemetery improvements. The other ones are just small miscellaneous things that we have to cover that were not originally covered in the line item budgets in the proper dollar amounts.
I'd like to offer Resolution 11-057, increase the appropriation from unencumbered balance to the approved for the following accounts.
Second.
On the roll, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Hang on one second, I'm reading, get Jen first, sorry. All right, yes.
Mr. Dunaway?
Yes.
My next resolution is Resolution 11-058. This is an increase, now that we did the additional appropriation, now we're increasing the estimated resources certificate so that we then can appropriate this money and spend it. The first one is, once again, the cemetery fund for the $4,500. The $571.89 for the senior center, we just received, we received all the tax funds from the auditor for that. This money has trickled in from the auditor's office. I imagine it was somebody paid late or some delinquencies. And the next one is the $8,161 for the road and bridge fund.
Okay, I'll offer Resolution 11-058. Approve the increase in, can you change the word certificate to certificate properly, please? I've asked this 3 times now, of estimated resources. I made the resolution, the motion, but we need to spell it correct.
I think they call that the cut and paste.
I don't know. See if I can edit that in there. Nope.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yeah.
Yes.
same form.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Dunaway?
Yes.
I will talk to Jim on that.
Thank you.
I will keep this one pulled out. My next resolution is 11-059. Once again, now this is for the cemetery fund, now that we appropriated it, now that we have the appropriation or the amended certificate and the appropriation, now we're actually going to be transferring the money into the cemetery fund from the general fund of $4,500.
I make a motion that we approve, what's that?
Resolution.
I'm sorry, resolution approve the transfer of funds, resolution 11059.
Second.
Calling the roll, Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mr. Haddad.
Yes.
Mr. Genowine.
Yes.
My last resolution is Resolution 11-060, and it's a transfer of appropriations, and basically what this is just transferring appropriations from one line item to another line item within the department's budget. It's $6,960 from the office equipment account into the computer service account, and what they're doing is they're buying new software licenses for their software at the police department for their computers.
Okay, I'll offer Resolution 11-60, transfer of appropriations to the police department.
Second. Sorry, please.
One of you.
Calling the roll, Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mr. Haddad.
Yes.
Mr. Genowine.
Yes.
That's all the resolutions I have. Now it's open discussion. Hearing none, any public sign this sheet to speak?
Good afternoon. My name is Troy Stevenson. I'm a trustee of Edgewater Place Homeowner Association. I met, I think, all three of you guys, trustees' involvement in the proposed industrial wind farm that's being, the zoning's being worked on in Riga Township. I just want to discuss the outcome of the meeting last night. Were a couple of you guys there last night? Okay.
John and I.
Okay, I don't know if you...
I'm going to make it another meeting.
Okay, I don't know if you guys made it to the fireworks at the end, but it got a little bit more contentious during public commentary. But I did want to share a few things with you in regards to this. You're aware that there are 250 industrial wind turbines, 493 feet are being proposed within the 10 square mile limit north of our border. The way I've looked at this is in effect over 600 homes within a half a mile in Edgewater Place, Brookstone, 12 Lakes, Maple Creek, and Woodstream West directly. We are going to get zero benefit from this. We are going to get all of the negative consequences that come with this. A couple things to recap about last night's meeting. What was discussed by the Planning Commission up there was in regards to setbacks, which is how far these wind turbines will be back. Really nothing's changed. I've changed the format in regards to distance to a multiplier factor of height versus distance, but it still looks to be about a quarter mile away. Secondly, they've not changed their position in regards to noise, 45 decibels during the day and 40 at night. And the shadow flicker, they're actually are looking at increasing what they'll allow for shadow flicker onto homes. What I think is more disturbing from my viewpoint is that the matter of the border and the setback from the border isn't even on the agenda. It's not even being discussed. And what I can't even tell in regards to what they call participating or non-participating property in Riga Township, it does not look like it includes Sylvania Township or anybody past the border there. So the way I look at it is they can put these windmills basically right on the border. And how I've read it, and if you look at the pictures that I posted on edgewaterplace.net website, you'll see how prominent these look. You'll see the look down Edgewater in our subdivision at a quarter mile setback behind our property. I did call out the chairman of the Planning Commission in Riga Township last night. I believe he has a moral and ethics situation up there. His family is the Gus Brother Pumpkin Farms that we see their signs all over Sylvania. It's a great farm. I love it. I take our kids there. I take the Cub Scouts there. I'm not opposed to it, but what I see is this 2 mile setbacks directly interferes with the chairman of the Planning Commission's family's interest. I do have a copy of the signed lease. That's a fact. I'll be more than glad to share it. A couple other things I'd like to include in there. What I've found is the 3,900 is the furthest distance in regards to ice throws from these windmills. That'd be well into Sylvania Township. There's been over 500 documented failures and collapse of these windmills. I would expect with us having a great fire department in Sylvania Township, they do a phenomenal job. They have some of the best equipment that I can see, that we'll probably be called upon to help them in these situations. I'm sure it's not even being considered right now. Sylvania, we are high density. You hear about being good neighbors. You hear about proper zoning. There's about 625 houses in that half-mile district, and to put a windmill, industrial-sized windmill within a quarter mile irresponsible. This will crush our home values, estimated 20 to 40% in our area. I've also got the support of the Sylvania School Board. David Spees and Jim Nussbaum have written letters on behalf of the Sylvania School Board. I don't know if you've seen copies of those letters. I mean, our schools, I think everybody knows what's going on with funding there. So I think it's good to have, we got the trustees' involvement and the school board's involvement. So, here I'm asking for, further participation and support from Sylvania Township trustees. I'm not sure what can be done for at this point. I know your attendance in the meetings, we've written letters. I don't know if it's in regards to, threats of legal action, of a federal lawsuit. I'm not sure how this works. I'm one citizen. I've walked Edgewater Place. I've talked to at least 50 of our neighbors. Everybody's adamantly against it. These are prominent. They're huge. It's going to change the landscape of Sylvania here in the very near future. And the timing is very, very close. So once again, I'm here asking for your support of the trustees. I really appreciate what you've done to this point.
We are trying to put up a united front, so the school board and the city of Sylvania and the township are trying to approach this all with, the one goal in mind of a 2-mile setback. Last indication that I think I received before last night's meeting was that Mulberry Road was 1.75 miles, and, that I think we all had a comfort level with that. But as you say, it's a moving target, so we're trying to keep our eye on this very closely, and we continue to monitor it. And if you can help us, I know Kevin, you're probably included, but I think we're all getting quite a few emails from Mr. Nolan and things, so we are watching this very closely and doing what we can. I mean, the reality of it is, we don't want to go to we just don't know what we can do across the state line.
Okay.
So, but we are trying, and we are, trying to help.
Has Sylvania Township to this point looked at what legal remedies could come if this
I
ordinance?
called the legal counsel on this, and they're looking in to see what they can do.
Okay.
It's very limited at this point in time.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Gentlemen, thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Are we supposed to have an executive session?
Any other,
I thought we were supposed to have an executive session that I don't see on here at this point. We have it on there?
We're going to add it.
Oh, well, we should have added it at the beginning of the meeting.
any other members of the public? Hearing none?
Okay, well then I would like to offer a motion to go into executive session at 5:22 to discuss personnel matters in the police department. Is that all we're covering?
Zoning?
All departments.
Sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Second. Who said, John or Neil?
Yes, please.
Well, calling the roll, let's see, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad? Yes. Mr. Genowine?
Yes.